Hi, my name is Kieran Pond and my topic is the phases of the gastric digestion. Today we are going to go through the cephalic phase, gastric phase, and intestinal phase. The cephalic phase.
If you're like me and you love fish, you may look at this image and you may become very hungry and wish it was in your mouth. Your mouth even may begin to salivate.
Although these pictures may not look as particularly appetizing as the previous image, seeing, smelling, and anticipating food is perceived by the brain, and the brain informs the stomach that it should prepare for a meal. Have you ever been sitting in a restaurant and as the waiter is bringing the table next to their meal, you begin to salivate? Although you may not realize you are undergoing the first step of the first phase of the cephalic cycle. When you are really hungry or something looks particularly appetizing to someone, one may begin to salivate. The neurons of the brain stimulate the facial and glossopharyngeal nerve, which results in the secretion of saliva from the parotid and the submandibular gland. At the same time, the brain stimulates the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve results in the secretion of gastric juices, which include HCl, pepsin, mucus, and gastrin into the stomach. This helps prepare for digestion. Gastrin is a peptide hormone that is responsible for the control and release of HCl and pepsin into the stomach. It is released by G cells and it increases gastric motility and relaxes the gastric sphincter. And this summarizes the cephalic phase. Although the food is not in the stomach yet, the body is beginning to prepare for digestion. The second phase of the gastric digestion is the gastric phase. This phase begins once the food enters the stomach. The enteric nervous system senses a stretch in the stomach or distension when food enters the stomach. It also senses an increase in the pH levels. This initiates the gastric phase and stimulates the gastrin secretion by G cells. HCl is released from parietal cells. As you can see in this diagram, the gastric phase is controlled by a negative feedback system. As more acid is added into the stomach, pH drops and gastrin is inhibited. An increased paralysis causes increased stomach emptying and decreases the stomach volume. Stretch receptors are inhibited, and the body returns to homeostasis. And the last phase of gastric digestion is the intestinal phase. This is initiated when food exits the stomach and enters the small intestine. The stretch receptors send nerve impulses to the medulla oblongata, and this inhibits gastric motility, increases the contraction of the pyloric sphincter, and slows gastric secretion in the stomach. Fatty acids and glucose in the chyme cause the intestinal mucosa to release two hormones. The first hormone is secretin. This is made by mucosal cells of the intestine, but has an effect on the stomach. It decreases gastric secretion and reduces the production of acid, pepsin, and mucus secretion. The second hormone released is CCK. This inhibits stomach emptying and slows down the muscular contractions. In essence, the intestinal system puts a brakes on gastric digestions and prevents the intestine from being overloaded on foods. And this summarizes the phases of gastric digestion, starting with the cephalic phase, into the gastric phase, and ending with the intestinal phase. I hope you enjoyed my presentation.